I still remember the exact sound. The pages turning, slow, deliberate. He wasn't looking for anything important, that's what he said. He was just looking for something in the room, and somehow, his hands ended up on something that was never meant for anyone else. My diary. I had kept that journal since I was 10 years old. It was my private space, the one place I never had to filter my words, soften my feelings, or worry about how I came across. It was just me, raw, honest, unedited. And he read it. If you've never had someone go through something that personal without permission, let me tell you, nothing about that moment feels small. Before we go further, if this kind of story interests you, you can subscribe and keep watching from here. Nothing about that moment feels small. Remember that. He came out of the room looking shaken, shell-shocked even. He told me what he'd done, found the journal while looking around, started reading, and kept going even after he realized what it was. I asked him why he didn't stop. He couldn't answer that. But his apology felt real. His eyes were wet. He looked genuinely sorry, and I believed him. That was the first problem, because a few days later, the apology was gone. What was left was something else entirely. He started bringing up things he had read out of nowhere at random moments. A sentence I wrote about a night out. A thought I had about a person I used to know. Things I had processed privately, alone, in my own words. And suddenly those words were being used against me. His pain was so visible, so overwhelming. And somehow, I started to feel responsible for it. I started apologizing for my own thoughts. Read that again. I was apologizing for things I wrote in my own private journal for no one's eyes but mine. We moved on. We got married. Life happened. Years passed. And then it happened again. I was going through a difficult stretch in our marriage. I needed to think things through, so I did what I had always done. I wrote. I wrote about confusion, about distance, about the feeling that something between us had shifted, and I didn't know how to name it yet. He found it. Or, and this is the part that started to bother me, he found it. Once again, the conversation quickly became about his feelings, about how much it hurt to read those things, about what my private words said about me as a person. And once again, somehow, I was the one who ended up apologizing. That's when it hit me for the first time. Not fully, not in a way I could hold on to. But something small and sharp inside me said, wait, this isn't right. I pushed that feeling down. I convinced myself I was overreacting. I let it go. That was the second problem. Fast forward a few more years. We had kids now, a real life, a shared home, roots. One Friday night, we were setting up a board game at the kitchen table. He left to grab something from another room. He came back quiet. That particular kind of quiet I had learned to recognize. He looked at me, and I already knew before he said a word. I just read your journal. I felt something cold move through me. In my most recent entries, I had written about some complicated feelings related to our different backgrounds. His culture, and his family's expectations, the distance I sometimes felt between his world and mine. These were messy, unfinished thoughts, not conclusions, not verdicts, just the unfiltered inside of my head. And he had read all of it. Wait, I said, my voice lower than I expected. You read my journal again? He pivoted immediately. He said I had left it out. He said the things I wrote made me a bad person. He started listing everything he found offensive one by one, and I sat there watching his mouth move and hearing almost nothing. Because all I could think was, a third time. I slammed my hand on the table. I didn't plan it. It just happened. A third time? He told me I was overreacting. He told me I was being overly emotional. When I started to cry, because yes, I cried. He used that as evidence that I wasn't handling this well. He was the one who had invaded my private space 3 separate times across more than a decade. And somehow I was the problem. Nothing about that moment feels small, and I was done pretending otherwise. That night, I needed to think. I sat with the feeling, The real one, not the version I usually talk myself out of. And what I felt was not guilt. What I felt was violation. I had not shared those entries with him. I had not invited him in. Whatever he read by choosing to look at something that was never meant for his eyes. Whatever pain those words caused him, that pain was a consequence of his own actions. I told him that. I said, "Did I share those things with you willingly?" He said, "No." "Then you deal with what you found on your own." I asked for space. I said, I needed time to think. That's when everything changed. A few hours later, he started yelling. Not quietly, not privately. He moved through the house, pulling everyone into it, anyone who would listen. He started repeating what I had written, out loud, in detail, turning my private words into something else entirely. I was pleading with him to stop. The room was chaos, voices overlapping, the walls closing in, and he just kept going. I grew up watching something like that, a stairwell, screaming, chaos that children should never have to carry. I had promised myself, that my children would never know that feeling. I got the kids out of the house. We sat in the car, the three of us, while I held them and kept saying I was sorry. I kept saying it was going to be okay, even though I didn't fully believe it yet. But I knew one thing. Nothing about this life feels small anymore, and I was finally done making it small. The decision came quietly, the way the most important decisions usually do. Not dramatic, not sudden, just clear. I was going to leave. The weeks that followed were not easy. He minimized, he deflected. He said I was withdrawing, like I always do. He accused me of making things difficult. He reminded me, again, of a mistake I had made years earlier during a rough patch and used it to justify everything he had done since. I recognized the pattern. I had lived inside it long enough to know every turn. I started to understand something important. I had stayed not because I was weak, but because I had been made to doubt everything. My memory, my feelings, my perception of what was real. I had taken notes during arguments because I felt like I was losing my grip on reality. I had apologized for thoughts I wrote in private because the weight of his emotions had become heavier than my own sense of what was right. That's not a character flaw. That's what happens when someone systematically convinces you that you are the problem. The divorce moved forward. There were hard months. There were moments I questioned myself. But there was also something new, something I hadn't felt in a very long time. Clarity. I moved into a new place. The old house sold. The paperwork was done. And on the first morning in my own space, my own quiet, private, no one else's space, I sat down and opened a blank page in a new journal. I wrote exactly what I felt. No one was going to read it. No one was going to use it against me. No one was going to stand in front of my children and turn my private thoughts into weapons. Nothing about this new chapter feels small. It feels like everything. A journal is not evidence. It is not a confession. It is not an invitation. It is the inside of someone's mind. The messy, unfinished, still figuring it out inside. And it deserves to be protected. If you're somewhere in the middle of a story like this, still second-guessing yourself, still apologizing for things you shouldn't have to apologize for, I want you to hear this. Your thoughts are yours. Your words are yours. And so is your way out. Nothing about your healing feels small. That's where I'll leave it.
If this meant something to you, you can subscribe and stay here.